the creativity, the ingenuity of being able to get things in this world, I think
Yeah.
especially for a young girl, is very important to nurture instead of just
Yes.
saying, don't do that. Like, just listen all the time.
You channel it.
Yeah.
The reason I feel some security in giving parental advice, I have a soon to be 31-year-old
Wow.
son, and I have a 29-year-old daughter. And sometimes they were hard to manage, but it's like, how do you channel that so that they can be who they are, but be who they are for the sake of goodness?
It almost sounds like leading a team is similar, right? Like,
Yeah.
channeling the strengths and the skills that people on your team have, and being able to kind of unlock that. So let's talk a little bit about your approach to leadership, and maybe how do you remember the first leadership role you ever had in your career and what that was like?
My career or my life? I think my first leadership role was, when I was 5 years old in Miss Elliott's elementary school. Uh, and, this goes to your point, right? Like, are you born like this or are you taught? And it's a combination of the two. I think leadership is most powerful when you realize as a leader that sometimes you lead.
I learned something absolutely insane today. 96% of the people who watch videos on this channel are not subscribed to it. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It'll take you just 1 second and it helps the channel quite a bit. You'll also get access to new videos when they are released. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the content.
In front, sometimes you lead behind, and sometimes you lead standing side by side. And I don't think a position, a title makes you a leader or
Yeah.
not. There are people who are very junior in their careers. There are people on college campuses. There are people, in different walks of life, and they naturally lead. And I think part of leadership, and the thing that I have been told about my leadership style, is that I can see the best in people and I encourage that best to come out. And I'm pretty good at setting goals, but I also understand that, Jacob, the way you might approach something might be terribly different from the way that I approach it. And one is not better than the other, they're just different. And all of those skills are necessary to marshal an outcome. And it's why we all embrace diversity of opinion, representation, because you need different points of view and you need different types of people
Yeah.
to come to an outcome that's going to be materially beneficial to a wide range of people. So I think leadership is, you can lead at any level. And I think teams are about finding the best in people and bringing that out. And I feel like I've been thinking a lot. This 50 over 50 was interesting for me, right? And so I've been thinking a lot about my life and my trajectory and how I got here and what's next for me. And I think I fundamentally believe that there's a time and a place for everything. I've said that there was a time where I exceeded the goals that other people set for me. There was a time where, there was this interesting concept of leaning in several years ago. There was a time when I leaned back, never out, but I
Yeah.
leaned back because I had to take care of, an ailing mother, and my children really, really needed me. And I think now it is about building legacy. It is about impact. It's about integrity. It's about transparency. Things that I think were always there for me, but I now have the freedom, psychologically, spiritually, title wise, to really lean into those things that are most important to me. I have no idea whether I answered your question about teams, but that all came to me and I just shared it.
Yeah, and so hearing you talk, I forgot to ask. So, you said you have a 31-year-old daughter, so it sounds like you had kids fairly young.
I love that about you. 31-year-old son,
Yeah.
and 29-year-old daughter. I don't, age is relative. I find myself saying that a lot lately. Uh, Age is relative, but yeah, I've been married for 34 years on
Wow.
November 5th. And that's the other thing that, again, I'm super reflective right now. Work has always been important to me, but it's not the most important thing to me. My 34-year marriage is really important to me.
Yeah.
My children are really important to me. The role I play in my community. the voice that I am for many. Those are things that are really important to me. And my work is incredibly important, but it's not my life.
Yeah, yeah. And I asked because my mom had me when she was very young. I think she was 18 or 19. So I had Russian immigrant parents. And so
Ah,
my parents are 10 years apart. My dad's 10 years older. So
wow.
I was born when obviously my mom was very, very young. And I'm curious if that impacted or influenced your career trajectory in any way. Do you feel that maybe it was harder? Was it more motivating to have kids at a younger age? And I asked my mom the same question too.
I wasn't that young when I had my kids. I was in my late 20s.
Okay.
Uh, but I do think this goes to your first question, and you can tell just in what you shared about your parents. I do think how you were raised has an impact on how you see the world. And I think the people that raised you, so as I've indicated, my parents were two very successful professional people, but they were also Black people in the 60s and 70s, and it wasn't that easy. And my parents were the most remarkable role models to me because, my mother, I lost my dad the year I graduated from college, but, growing up, my parents were like this dashing couple who worked really, really hard. And God knows what pain and challenges they dealt with internally, being people of color, your parents being immigrants. Who knows what pain that they were dealing with, but they were the president of the PTA and the girls and boys, the Cub Scouts, and they were active
Hmm.
in our faith community, and they just did it. And so it's how I have sought to live my life. I saw my parents doing everything. And as you know, sometimes it's at cost.
Yeah.
But I saw my parents being remarkable parents, being remarkable citizens, and being remarkable professionals. And as you probably now know, that's hard to manage all of that. But you do what you have to do.
Yeah, you do. I mean, my dad, getting to your comment on pain, he doesn't even want to talk about his past. He refuses.
Yes.
So
Mm,
he grew up in the former USSR, the Republic of Georgia is
mm.
where he was born. And it's actually where I proposed to my wife because we went there
Oh,
to visit.
lovely.
So I went back there with my mom, my grandmother, my aunt, and my dad refuses to
Oh,
go back. He doesn't even, he speaks Georgian fluently, but he refuses to speak the language. Like that's how upset he was. Because
yeah.
they were,
Wow.
they're Jewish, and so they were persecuted
Yes.
for being Jewish, and it was just a complete disaster. And he will not talk about his childhood. My
Mm.
family knows very little about his past, and he just does not want to bring it up. So, yeah,
And
it's
you have
tough.
to respect that, but that makes him who he is,
Yeah,
and that obviously influences the father and the grandfather
yeah,
that he is.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, so, getting back to leadership, what was your first formal leadership role at an organization?
Uh, I think probably when I was probably when I went to the White House. I had been at Fleischman Hillard. I had done some interesting things. Was a part of some really interesting accounts. But when I went to the White House in the Clinton administration, I first went in working for Bob Reich as a comms director in the Department of Labor. I then went to uh, uh, the White House. And then I worked, I was the deputy director of the Federal Glass Ceiling Commission, and that
Okay.
was a leadership position. And then I went to the White House and was chief of staff of the White House Women's Office. And so I think that trajectory was the first time that I was in a recognized leadership role. And I learned a lot in those jobs. And I say that what I found most helpful when I worked in those capacities was it's not how smart you are. It's not how hard you work. It is how valuable you are to an institution. And this is going to be corny as hell. It's also like, how are you to work with?
Yeah.
What is it like to work with you? Do you inspire people? Are they excited about coming to work? Do they feel that they can share their hopes and dreams with you and that you can get them to the other side of wherever they're trying to go? Do you lead by example? Do you say something in a meeting and then do you carry it out afterwards? Do you talk about people in a way that's not constructive or helpful or additive? And so I think in those jobs, and interestingly, my children, so I was also a young mother at the time. And I think there was a parallel with the way I was trying to run my household with honesty and transparency and being aspirational always, like feeling I could do better and better and better. And then at work, I was doing the same thing of looking at my career, but looking at the career path of others and helping them to get to the other side of where they wanted to be in a way that they could sleep good at night. They could sleep well at night, knowing they had done it with integrity and with professional expertise, and they had given it everything. And when you've given it everything, you can sleep well at night. And so I think when I was in those jobs, those were the first official leadership roles that I had, and those were the things that I learned.
Did you ever get any formal leadership training in those roles, or were you just hired and you had to kind of figure things out on your own?
No, it's a great question. I'm sure that at some point during my 7 years with the Clinton administration that I had some type of training.
Okay.
But it's not, we don't pay enough attention to training. Training is important. I look at Edelman now, and when I was at Ogilvy before and Fleishman Hillard before that, and in all of my jobs, we promote people because they're good at their jobs. But we don't think about, with that promotion and they start managing people, are they also good with their people? And that's significant. And I think that anytime you are promoted into a more senior role, along with getting the training of, professional integrity or financial acumen and personnel, that we should be taught how to lead. And there's a difference between leading and managing. You can be taught how to manage with management training, but leading is very, very different.
Yeah. What is the difference? Because I'm sure a lot of people are now thinking, all right, well, what is the difference between management and leadership, managing and leading?
If you and I worked together and I was in a position of seniority to you and I was responsible for your well-being, your professional well-being, managing is you come into work, you and I set a goal. You get your, I say make 12 widgets. You make those 12 widgets. You have a question about how to make the widget. I answer the question. When you finish with your widget making, you come back and I give you 12 more. So I'm managing you through a process.
Yep.
Leadership is, Jacob, let's talk about the widgets. Is this what you want to do? Do you think you're a great widget maker? I think you're good here, but you probably could be a little stronger here. Let me show you how to excel at your widget making. And then also, let's have a conversation about what's next after you lead the widgets, after you make the widgets. And simultaneously, I'm saying, Jacob, watch me. Yeah. I'm making widgets, but I'm also doing these other things. And if you have questions about what I'm doing, ask me. But I'm also going to say to you, hey, watch me in this circumstance, in these situations. What did you learn? What do you think I did well? And I'm going to lead you to another spot. And I'm going to challenge you on how you're making the widgets. Are you making them in a sustainable way? Are you being kind to other people? Are you being respectful to other people? Are you respecting yourself while you're making these widgets? That's leadership. Management is like, make your widgets, good job, go home.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of the phrase that came to mind is that management is more along the lines of getting people to do more, but leadership is more around helping people become more.
Yes. Why didn't you say that? That was better than my widget story. That was great.
It just popped into my mind as you were going over the widgets.
I inspired you. Look, I'm going to take some credit for that because that was sharp and tight.
Yeah, that's a good quote. I got to remember that. I'm going to write that down afterwards.
I'm glad I said it.